The night they buried me, my husband ordered champagne. I wasn't dead, obviously, but the flowers were real. The casket looked heavy, and the whispers in the back pew hurt like they were meant to. I sat 2 blocks away in a borrowed car wig on sunglasses at dusk, like a Hollywood extra watching people cry for me. And I'll tell you the truth, part of me wanted to throw the door open and scream, "I'm still here." The other part wanted proof. Not rumors, not vibes. Proof. My name's Ava Sinclair. I built a scholarship fund in Tacoma out of a cramped office and a coffee maker that hissed like a snake. We grew, we did good work. We got written up in those glossy magazines that forget how many sleepless nights it takes to look effortless. And then I married Grant Mercer, handsome, polished a man who knew how to hold a room like the room owed him money. The magazine called us a power couple. Funny thing about power, though, if it's built on your blind trust, it's not yours. He had his London trips, his boards, his cufflinks with my initials, like I was branding on a suit. I kept telling myself this was marriage settling in, not love wearing thin. Then one morning our estate manager, Miles, did a thing you're not supposed to do when you work for rich people. He looked me in the eye and asked if I was okay. I wasn't. I said I was. He nodded like men nod when they're saying all right, but I'm not leaving you alone with it. That afternoon he slid a folder across my desk like it might bite me. Photos, receipts, a lease to an apartment I'd never seen. There she was. Rhea Dalton, red dress, red nails, a laugh you could hear in a still picture. Texts from Grant said, 2 more years prenups irrelevant, then half is ours. Ours. My chest went cold, then hot, then mean. I remember my own voice, steady, almost polite, saying, "I want to hear him tell me." Miles said, "Then make him think he's already won." You'd be surprised how many strings a quiet man can pull. Miles knew a doctor who owed him a favor, a funeral director who spoke in commas, not periods, and a journalist who actually believed journalism still mattered. He laid it out, a heart episode at my cabin on Bainbridge, closed casket, cremation, requested no autopsy, no questions. Then we let Grant talk when he thinks nobody's listening. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. "I can't do this to my sister," I said. "Naomi will break." Miles said, soft as a bandage. "Only for a few days. He's been breaking you for years." So we did the ridiculous thing. I posted nothing. Texted Grant that I needed quiet. He sent a heart emoji, and I drove to the cabin with shaking hands. The doctor signed papers with a mouth like a thin line. The director spoke low and careful to the family. We left an empty box where my body should have been and let the city grieve a woman who had more stubbornness than good sense. That night, Miles dialed Grant on speaker. "Mr. Mercer, I'm sorry. Ava's gone." Silence long enough to feel like a confession. Then Grant, "Is the documentation in order?" Not, "Are you sure not?" "Where is she not?" "Say her name." Documentation. I closed my eyes and pictured the wedding portrait in our hallway, the one where I looked like the kind of woman who believed in forever. I remembered thinking the frame was too heavy for the wall. Turns out it wasn't the only thing. We wired cameras into the air vents of that secret apartment, Grant and Rhea's place, and waited. "You want a line that tastes like metal?" Here he walked in with a bottle colder than his face and said, "She's finally gone." Rhea laughed into his neck. "To freedom," she purred. He said, "To the future," and then like a man practicing for an award tried on grief in the mirror, just enough to earn sympathy, not enough to raise suspicion. I could feel my fist clench around nothing. They talked numbers, timelines, how soon he could be seen with Rhea without looking like a villain. "Widower finds love," he rehearsed. "People eat that. She asked if he'd ever loved me even a little. He looked bored. I loved what she represented: money, access, credibility. He sipped, then added casual, cruel. She died thinking I loved her. That's almost sweet. At my funeral the next day, Grant wore devastation the way he wore his bespoke suit tailored to impress. He shook hands like he was running for office. Naomi sobbed into a handkerchief our grandmother embroidered when we were kids. Even the thread looked tired. I sat in the car with the wig itching my scalp and swallowed down the urge to run to her. "We're almost there," Miles said, watching the doorway like a hunter who hates the hunt but loves the justice. The will reading happened in a conference room that smelled like lemon polish and old decisions. My foundation got almost everything. Naomi got what Mom would have wanted her to have: a house with a roof that keeps its promise. Grant got $5 million paid out over 5 years with a compliance clause that would choke a snake. The camera caught it the millisecond when his face cracked open and the real man stepped out, rage naked and sloppy before the mask snapped back. That evening in the red dress apartment, he threw his jacket at a chair hard enough to make the lamp flinch. $5 million over 5 years is an insult, he barked. Rhea said, "It's still a lot." He shot her a look that could set water on fire. I played husband for 5 years, smiled at donors, sold her story every day. I didn't do all that for an allowance. Then he started plotting how to wind down my foundation. Bad investments, unfortunate mismanagement, a quiet dismantling while pretending to honor my vision. In the bedroom behind the mirror, Naomi covered her mouth with both hands. The board members just filmed jaws tight. The journalist wrote so fast the pen squeaked. We waited until the room got small with their arrogance. Miles touched my shoulder. "Ready." I took off the wig, combed my hair with my fingers, and walked out like a ghost that changed its mind. The door hit the wall. His flute of champagne shattered a glittering little explosion at his feet. Rhea backed into the couch until there was no couch left. "Hi, Grant," I said, steady, almost kind. "Sorry I missed the funeral early check-in for the resurrection." He went gray in waves. You died," he whispered. The doctor said. "The doctor lied," I said. Small world, right? Then the bedroom door opened and the crowd came out like a verdict. Naomi with fury in her eyes, the board with phones up, the journalist with his mic, Miles beside me like a wall that finally learned how to speak. Grant forgot how to blink. "This is entrapment," he said, pointing like I'd stolen his favorite toy. "This is documentation," I said, and laid it all out on the marble transfers to shell companies, forged authorizations that lease with his fake name and his real signature those texts where he counts down to my money, like a kid counts birthdays. Rhea tried to pivot the way people do when the music stops. Grant told me she was abusive. She said, eyes wide with sudden innocence. Naomi laughed sharp and mean. Abusive. My sister buys houses for women who need to leave. The only thing she abuses is her own sleep. Rhea's face did the math and sat down. Grant lunged for the laptop. Miles got there first, calm like weather. Grant hissed, "You'll never prove context." The journalist spoke up, voice level. "Context is you practicing grief in a mirror." The room exhaled. Grant looked at me the way a cornered fox looks at a fence, angry at the wood. He tried one last performance. "Ava, I made mistakes, but I loved you." I tilted my head. "Say that again, but look at Naomi while you do." He couldn't. It's strange how some truths weigh more when your sister's watching. Police didn't crash through the door because that's not how white-collar endings work. Instead, our lawyer started the clock freezing distributions, filing complaints, handing drives to people who actually read them. The board released a statement with teeth. The journalist went live outside the building with a headline that didn't need adjectives. Grant's lawyer called within the hour asking to discuss a resolution. I said the only resolution I wanted came with receipts and court dates. Later on the sidewalk, Naomi grabbed my hands and cried messy tears into my shoulder, the good kind. "You idiot," she said, smiling through it. "Don't you ever die on me again." Miles stood a few feet away like a man who's learned how to carry storms without letting them drown him. I looked at him and saw all the ways he'd been there quietly. Lights fixed before they flickered, fires out before we smelled smoke. "Ask me again in a week," I told him later when the night got soft. "Ask me who I see when I look at you." He nodded, not pushing the opposite of every man who ever had to announce his greatness. Did I win? Depends on what you think winning is. I didn't get those years back, and the portrait still hangs heavier somehow, like it knows exactly what it witnessed. But the foundation is louder now. More scholarships, more audits, more women with keys in their hands and names on their deeds. And Grant, well, let's just say it's amazing how quiet a room gets when the microphones aren't yours anymore. Here's the part that'll start fights in the comments, and I want it to, what's the difference between grief and performance, between love and access, between a mistake and a plan? Have you ever watched someone rehearse their feelings for a room and thought, wait, who are you when the door shuts? Tell me down there if I went too far, faking my death or not far enough. Tell me what you've seen, who got away with what, who didn't, and what justice looks like where you live. If you stand with receipts over reputation, type it out. I stand with receipts.